And she looks at my passport and she goes, starts sucking her teeth.
Emotional, damn it!
I hate that I have to talk about this, but I pride myself on being an honest person. So in an effort to be as honest as possible in explaining what it's like to live in Africa, I have to tell both the really good things and the really bad things as well. So today we're going to talk about my experience driving from Kampala, Uganda to Nairobi, Kenya. So I had planned to take a bus from Uganda to Kenya, from specifically Kampala to Nairobi, but I changed my mind after speaking to several people who had taken the bus before. They said that it was a really long trip and sometimes the buses break down, and so we have a vehicle, so they said that it would be better for me to drive. So I did my research, made sure all the documents I would need in order to cross the border. I contacted our lady who does our immigration to make sure that all of our affairs were in order and that I took every document that I needed with me across the border. We started off at 2:15 a.m. so that way we can avoid traffic delays near Jinja. So we set off at 2:15 a.m. and then we drove in the dark of night. It's really difficult to do because there's not a lot of lighting along a lot of the highways on the way to Busia, which is the border town between Uganda and Kenya. But nevertheless, we prevailed. I had one kid with me up at all times. If you don't know, we have 4 children. And so it was just me and the 4 kids. My husband is back in the US for now. And so we set off and, we made the journey. The journey was smooth for the most part, minus, potholes and then unforeseen police checkpoints, which were no big deal. We just kept going. And so then we finally get to the border. And they have what people call fixers who kind of help you through the process, which is sad to me because you shouldn't need fixers. Things should be pretty straightforward, or at least the information should be readily available to you, so you won't need those kind of people. But nonetheless, we had a guy who volunteered to help us, and we ended up getting the car paperwork figured out. We had to basically get insurance on the Kenyan side while we were driving there. We had to get paperwork and permission to drive our Ugandan registered car in Kenya. So that was mostly fine. And then we get to the border area, which we have to show our paperwork to basically check out of Uganda and go into Kenya. So we get to the first gentleman. I present him with, my yellow fever information for myself and the children. And he's okay, go to this lady right here. She's a Ugandan immigration lady. And she looks at my passport and she goes, starts sucking her teeth.
Emotional, damn it!
And it's basically telling me that my documentation is illegitimate. I know that it's fine. I contacted both the Kenyan consulate in New York and the Kenyan, the Kenyan Immigration Office in DC. I also contacted the Kenyan Immigration Office in Nairobi. I sent emails. I have copies of emails, so I know my paperwork is legit. But she was telling me that, my paperwork is not legit and that she was going to have to send me back to Kampala. And here we go. We just drove 4.5 hours, through the night. And of course, me and the kids are upset. And she's, talking about us, part in English, part in Lugandan, or whatever tribal language that she was speaking. I'm not sure if it was absolutely Lugandan, but she's, telling us, we're stupid Americans and we don't know how immigration works, and we're abusing her country, and just stuff, which none of it is true. I did my due diligence. So then she calls over, and my kids are hungry. At the time we had food in the car, but we had been waiting for, at this point, probably an hour to get through immigration. So she tells me to go get the kids some food outside. And when I come back with the food, she has a Kenyan immigration officer there. Nobody has a name tag on, so I don't know anybody's name. But anyway, the Kenyan officer and her are talking in a language I can't understand. And so he's like, oh, well, send her back to Kampala. And I was like, okay. We had already reserved our Airbnb, we had plans. And so I was like, okay. I don't know what to do. And he was like, well, I can fix it. I can fix her immigration issue for $200. At this point, it's like 6 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. Well, no, probably like closer to 7 in the morning. And I would easily love to call my immigration attorney, but it's like 7 in the morning. So anyway, I sit with her and try to tell them, that I didn't budget $200 extra. I just spent, all this money to get here, and I have all these things that I need to do when I get to Nairobi, including stuff for our business. And they didn't care. He told my paperwork is illegitimate again. And then he proceeded to tell me that he insists I need to pay $200. So they showed me where the ATM was. I had to call my husband, have him transfer money into an account that I could withdraw out of. We like to keep our stuff separate, but whatever. Like our bill money and stuff like that separate. So I had him, borrow money from my bill account to put money into that account. And so I ended up taking money out of it. And then I come back and I try to, hand them the money. Oh, no, we don't take it here. So she made me go around the front again. My kids are still in the office. At that point, it had been probably 2 hours that we had been there. And I walk over to the Kenyan side. They tell me that it's going to be $250. So I gave them 250 USD, where I actually gave it in Kenyan shillings. And they took the money. And then they told me, oh, I can stamp your passport and I can stamp your oldest daughter's passport, but I can't stamp your baby's. After they had just told me that they were going to do that, and all this would be resolved with all my immigration issues would be resolved if I paid the money. Anyway, so I was like, okay. And I asked them why, and they proceeded to tell me what I had done was incorrect, and that if I had actually talked to somebody in immigration, that it would have been resolved, even though I had emails to show that I did talk to people and that it had been resolved. So anyway, they stamped myself and my oldest daughter, and then they just gave my children just like a one-time pass into Kenya. So it was really frustrating. And because they didn't give my little children the same, pass or visa that they gave myself and my other daughter, I was nervous that when I come back through Busia, that the next immigration office would try to do the same thing. So of course I go on YouTube after we left to listen to testimonials of people who have come through immigration, and everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people had similar stories of immigration taking money off of them, even though they had done their due diligence and they had made sure that everything was correct. And so that was really disheartening. Ultimately, they did let us go through, and we did end up going into Kenya to continue on our journey to get to Nairobi. But we went through with a really bad taste in our mouth. There's nothing like being called stupid for 3.5 hours with your kids sitting there to make you want to leave, and just not be here anymore. But my parents didn't raise a quitter, so I just found a different way around it. And what we're going to do is I called my business partner, and he's gonna drive our car back because I don't want my kids to go through that again. And we're gonna fly back. We were able to talk to our immigration attorney, as well as our immigration service that we use to get our paperwork together. And they both agreed separately that we had been scammed and that the people at the border agents, were taking advantage of us. And they told me stories about other people who had also been taken advantage of. And they said that they don't recommend that most of their people go through the Betrayal border patrol. So do with that whatever you want. I'm trying not to give too many details because I want to respect the fact that these people are government agents. And if the government decides to come talk to me, I will be honest with them and tell them all the details without putting it on the internet. So as far as I'm concerned, if I was to hear that somebody was going to be driving from Nairobi to Kampala or vice versa, I would not suggest it. If you can afford to not drive, I would definitely not do it. I watched in that 3.5 hours that I was there, many people being abused verbally by the agents, and it just being a really frustrating process for most people there. I understand, as I used to be a government employee, that it is difficult to work with people every day, especially when you're dealing with laws and policies and procedures. And oftentimes the public is not aware of the laws, policies, and procedures. So they don't understand the intricacies of any given position that a government official may be in. But also from my experience as a government employee, you cannot treat people like that and get far. So at this point, I've just prayed about it and I'm letting the Most High deal with it himself. But I would be a fraud if I came on the internet every week and I said that moving to Africa is easy. It is not. It's very, very difficult. And you have to weigh the positives and the negatives and be as informed as possible before making the decision to come here, because there will be people, especially if you are from the West, who hear your accent or see your passport and assume that they can take advantage of it. But just to be clear, not everybody who was being taken advantage of was from the US or from the West. I saw a testimony of a Nigerian man who was forced to pay $200. I also talked to my business partners who came in by bus to come and, spend time here in Nairobi before driving back with our vehicle. And they were telling me about an Indian man that was getting the blues and a man from Sudan who was given the blues because him and his family of 8 were trying to cross the border and they had legit paperwork, but the man in immigration was just refusing to let them pass unless they paid money to fix whatever the issue was, supposedly, that was there. So next week, I will have more positive information and I will have my insights into Nairobi and this beautiful country of Kenya as I experienced it so far. But for now, this one needed to come out and needed to be said. And I guess the chips will fall wherever they may. Anyway, guys, until next time, keep dreaming, keep pushing, and we're all in this together. Peace.